Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. This is the LogiCast, where we bring you all the fun stuff and our opinions about video games and pop culture. I am your current host, Mr. Gunnar Eos. I am with Mr. Blanka Kong, Mr. Esoteric Skills, and Mr. Hado Wolf. Today's topic is going to be easy mode in video games. There is, I guess, some controversy, depending on how you describe it, with some people declaring that all video games should have easy mode. People don't have a lot of time. They've got kids, they've got jobs, they got things to do, and they don't have time to grind or get good, as the saying goes, at a particular video game. Some video games that are pretty popular, or this when this game comes out, this topic kind of flares up every now and then, are the Soulsborne series, and more recently Sekiro. There was a couple big articles and hot takes on the Twitters about how Sekiro needs an easy mode because it's discriminatory against certain people, deprives them of the gaming experience. Now, yeah. I mean,
Sorry, sorry.
You couldn't hold it in. Jesus.
no, I get. Like it's a lot of people just if you looked at the Twitter feed during the time, a lot of people would just say "get good." That was usually the comeback. I used to feel that way. I used to be like, "You just get good," but now I feel my opinion is slightly changed on this matter. I feel if it's a single player game, I don't really care if there's an easy mode. It's your game. You spent your $65 on it. If you want to put it on easy mode, I got no hatred, no shame against you. If that's what it takes for you to enjoy your game, have at it. But people don't necessarily have a right to go and at the directors and creators of said video games and say your game needs to have an easy mode. I feel if a particular game is designed to be at a particular difficulty, honestly, you either play it the way it's meant to be played or the game isn't for you. And when it comes to multiplayer games, well, that's out. That's not really a factor because there's the randomness with multiplayer games. So I'm not going to really get into that. But as far as single player games go, I don't necessarily have a problem with easy mode. If that's how you want to play it and you enjoy it that way, knock yourself out. But nobody has necessarily the right to demand a game have an easy mode if that's not the creative vision of the people making the game. So I've kind of rambled on a bit. What are your guys' opinions on it? Yay or nay?
Well, I think Kong should go first because he has a
You-
whole freaking.
You want me to go first? Me?
I would say so because you got the the evidence or your charts.
The
you know?
evidence.
Professor
So I got
Kong
some-
is in session.
I got some stuff here because I spent a while today thinking about this particular topic because, like Gunnar said earlier, my knee-jerk reaction is get good, or I'm not a bitch, I'm not playing easy mode, right? Like, who the fuck you think you're talking to, right? Like, that was my attitude. And I'm wearing my Resident Evil 2 t-shirt here. And there's a reason why. Because I take great pride in playing games on hard. And when Resident Evil 2 came out, I played it on hardcore blind. So when it first came out, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I played the original Resident Evil 2, but the remake is what I'm talking about. And I played it on hardcore and I had a hell of a time. I loved the experience because it was just fun, right? The difficulty, the not knowing, if I'm gonna live to see the end of this game on this save file. I got to the point where there were no potions or first aid sprays or herbs left to heal. I was on like low caution for like the last 30% of the game. And I had to just figure it out. And I pulled through and I was like, yo, I love this game, right? So for me, it's experiences like that why I think an easy mode is fine if that's what you're looking for. But personally, being someone who's played games for a long time, easy mode just isn't acceptable for me. Certain games. So the first thing I had to do was, okay, well, what's the definition of easy, right? And according to Webster, It's something that's achieved without great effort, presenting few difficulties. I said, okay, makes sense. What are some other words that can be replaced for the word easy? Uncomplicated, not difficult, undemanding, effortless, painless, simple, elementary, unchallenging, and my favorite one, idiot proof. This was literally in the thesaurus for easy. So I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
God.
okay. So I'm not totally off with my opinions.
Idiot proof.
Wow.
I love
Wow.
it.
Wow. Wow.
It was there. And I was like, that's perfect. I'm gonna make sure that's the last one I talk about. So in short, I say all games should not feature easy mode. If it's not the a part of the vision of the creator, like for example, the Dark Souls games Gunnar mentioned before, that he didn't want it to just be easy, right? He wanted just a experience, and if you're
Right.
good enough and you rise to the challenge, then you will beat the game, right? And if you're not, then you won't beat the game. Period. That's it. You have to get to this level. And the example I always use is like if you want to play basketball professionally or any professional sport, you have to have an incredible talent or work incredibly hard and be incredibly lucky to make it to that. Not everybody's entitled to that NBA draft opportunity. It just doesn't happen, right? So I did some more research and I said, well, why is it that I like difficulty in games so much? And I stumbled upon this guy, this psychologist, American psychologist named Abraham Maslow. And he was born in Brooklyn. So Brooklyn stand up. I'm from Brooklyn. Esoteric's from Brooklyn.
Whoop,
And so
whoop.
is Wolf. So Brooklyn stand up. So I'm going to share a chart with you guys. And I think this will explain why is it that a lot of people enjoy hard, like difficulty in their games. So Esoteric, are you able to see this chart?
Let me click on. Am I supposed to
See, you
select
could
watch
probably
stream?
you can expand it, I think, and then it'll put us to the side and then
Yes, I got
expand
it.
the chart. So you
Got it.
see it on your end?
Yep.
All right. So this is the hierarchy of needs. And at the bottom, psychological needs, food, water, warmth, rest. These are basic needs, right? Safety needs, security and safety, psychological needs, intimate relationship and friends. And then in between these two sections where I think like our need for difficulty in games reside in prestige and feeling accomplishment and achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. That's where, to me, video games, the difficulty and the challenge that they bring, which is a part of the immersion, that's where that lives, right? For me, it could be different for other people, but for me, this like cleared it up. I was like, okay, I get it. This is why I celebrate when I lose to a fucking boss 80 times, but I get the one when I finally beat him and boom, I'm in that esteem needs and self actualization. So I'm going to stop sharing this and go back to the base screen. So I saw that and I was like, that's perfect. So it begs the question, why do we engage in gaming in the first place, right? It varies from person to person. I think for me, it's to escape, it's to challenge myself, it's to enjoy an adventure outside of my own life, right? I'm not Blanka Kong, the gamer in the East Coast, but I'm now Mortok the Mighty from the land of whatever, slaying dragons, right? And my problems in my life are not my problems as Mortok, the barbarian, right? I have to kill this dragon and I have to save this farmer from these bandits or whatever. Like that's why I play video games. I play video games to slay the big creatures, which is why I love boss battles and why I love Shadow of the Colossus and Monster Hunter and Mega Man, because it's all about the big challenge, the big test. So to shrink everything down to one phrase, hell no, there shouldn't be easy mode in every game, because not every game needs it or is designed for it. If you can't fucking play the game, play something else. That's it.
Okay. Wolf, you want to go next, or should I go next?
So thank you everybody for joining our podcast. Blanka Kong has wrapped it all up.
That's a record. 10-minute podcast. We're done.
um. Okay, Esoteric, you go.
Okay. Well, I agree with Gunner and Kong's point. I feel that not all games should have easy mode. One of the reasons why I feel that way is because I purchase games that are advertised as being difficult. I kind of associate with Kong's sentiment in pertaining to the difficulty of games is, for me, the harder the game, the better. I get more fulfillment based upon that pyramid chart that Kong has provided us today. But it's also not only that.
That multi-level marketing plan.
Oh my god, yes, indeed. And I do love that sense of fulfillment. I love going against the grain, trying to defeat all odds. And one of the biggest fulfilling moments for me when it comes to me actually completing games that difficult is having conversations with others who went through the same struggle as me. Yeah. That plays a tremendous role in the type of games that I play, because it allows conversation, especially in the gaming world, because I'm very enthusiastic when it comes to games, nerd culture, and so on. To acquire a certain level of skill to beat something and to relate with someone who did the same thing, and not so many within the realm of gaming are able to achieve, I appreciate that. Recently, as you guys know, I went back and played the Souls games, and I platted all of them with the exception of Dark Souls 3, which I plan to. This includes Demon Souls, the remastered one, the remake. I didn't get to play the old one, unfortunately, but if I had it, I'll probably do it too.
I've got it.
Okay, bring it, bring it.
Okay.
And here's another thing that kind of alludes to my difficulty. A lot of people say, well, the new one doesn't count because there was a lot of quality of life changes that was generated within that game. We spoke about that in a previous episode, that people feel that I didn't grind enough to acquire that trophy. So I'll prove them wrong. So that's Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, which was like the cheapest one out of all of them. Funny thing is, I started off with Dark Souls 2, but that's another story. I didn't complete Dark Souls 3 with the trophies. I did Sekiro and I did Bloodborne. Out of those collection of games, a lot of people cannot say that they've platted all of them. And I love to sit down across from other people who've done the same thing. And if there were an easy mode within that game, I feel like it will diminish the reason of me purchasing it. That sounds really selfish, but that was the reason why I bought the game in the first place, the difficulty. So I don't feel that easy mode should be in every single game, especially as you guys put it, if the developers said no, that wasn't their creative vision.
All right, Wolf, you're up.
So yeah, I can definitely agree with the fact that easy mode shouldn't be in every video game. I feel like good video games have a difficulty progression system. What that means is the game, again, it starts you off easy. It explains to you, it gives you examples of the resources that are available to you. And as you progress through the game, it tests your ability of using both, again, critical thinking and your resources in conjunction with your player skills to continuously challenge you. I do not feel like video games need an easy mode. which is funny because I'm not the type of person I don't play video games for their story per se. It all depends on the video game specifically. Um, I play video games more so for the gameplay and how I can break the game or how I can become the most advantageous, uh, how I can turn the situation for my liking. So like say for example, I played Final Fantasy IV and I had a boss that he was really difficult to beat because, if he opened his cape, he'd reflect your physical attacks. If he closed his cape, he'd reflect your magic attacks. And I was younger. I didn't want to deal with it. So my way of getting around it was grinding one whole summer because the game sucked the game wasn't very lucrative in terms of building EXP for your characters. I grinded one whole summer, all my characters to max level. I went back to the boss and I destroyed him. So I didn't need an easy mode to do that. I just used my resources to my benefit, you know, and I use it in a way where my characters became very strong. With that said, I'm not a fan of the Bloodborne, Dark Souls. I'm not a fan of those types of games. I do feel like they can present low. I feel like they present below the belt or they use below the belt tactics from time to time
Sometimes.
to
Yeah.
increase their difficulty. And honestly, I don't get an enjoyment out of that. Will I say, and I've tried Dark Souls 1, I've tried Dark Souls 2, and I've tried Neo, and I didn't like any of them. Now, will I say I'm mad at the company who developed those games or, those styles of games because they don't have an easy mode for me to play the game? No, I just go play a different game. Simple. Because the Dark Souls type games were designed to be difficult. The reward is the difficulty, getting past this really hard boss that can hit you for 70% of your health. The fact that 2 swings of your sword can eat up 90% of your stamina, so you can't even roll. Every piece of armor you equip will affect the weight of your character. The game was designed for that purpose. It was designed for a group of players who want something that is consistently challenging to them. So I have no right to want to come into that player base or that fan base to say, oh, I want to play this game and I'm going to write a hate mail to the developers or put out a disrespectful article about the game because the game didn't cater to me, who's just one guy in thousands and thousands and millions of gamers that could be playing that game. Like I just play a different fucking game. It's not that hard to me. It's really elementary thing. I don't participate in it.
Elementary, you
Simple.
say?
Or did you mean idiot proof?
Idiot.
But that's just how I can agree with Gunnar Eos's point of view. It's like if this is the creator's creative intent for the game, I'm going to interpret it as their creativity is not for me. As a person who's into art, not every painting I understand, not every drawing, not every art style, not every media that deals with art I understand or even like per se. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to participate in the art field overall. There's other art styles, there's other paintings, there's other drawings that I can appreciate. So instead, I indulge myself with those. It's the same thing. Like, why are you being such a dick about it? Like obviously the gameplay built a player base that enjoys the games as is. Don't come in and intoxicate people who are happy with the way that the game is now. You know, I left it alone. It was like, okay, well, I was walking, I was happy, and I had my sword and shield and a skeleton leg from the corner where the camera couldn't pick it up, kicked me, and I fell off a ledge. And all it said on my screen was, "You're dead." You know, like it's a random effect. It's a random thing. I didn't expect it. I didn't like that it happened to me, but that's how the game was designed. And if it was designed, if it was truly designed in a bad way, I don't think it would have the strong player base that it does to back it up.
Yeah,
So
mhm.
I don't like random skeletons jumping out on me and hitting me for 100% of my health, and then I die because it was a sneak attack. So therefore, get it out my system and let me boot up something else that I can play.
That's fair.
That's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And to piggyback off your point, I feel like these people who are ranting and complaining about the game not having an easy mode, they don't really want to play the game. They're more concerned about inclusivity. You know,
That's exactly what it is.
it's just, oh, I can't get to this part, so I'm upset. You need to make it easier for me to experience it. It's not the same experience at the end of the day. Okay,
watch
but
a YouTube video.
even that, it's still
If
not the
you,
same experience. Cause oh, you beat that boss, you beat Flame Lurker. No, I watched it on YouTube. Like it's still not even the same experience. You know what I'm saying? It's a matter of them getting their fulfillment of being a part of the cool kids table and essentially wanting to be a part
Ironically,
of that. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like being in a lunchroom. Like you sit with people who you relate to, you know? You don't try to be someone that you're not. If this game is not for you, or if you don't want to put in the work, because I feel like there are games that are, I feel like games are for everyone. It's just if you're not willing to put in the work, then you just either don't want to play it or it's not for you, you
well,
know?
the hobbyist can be for everyone, but not every game is for every person. I
Okay.
think that distinction is important to make.
Right. Yeah. There are some games where just certain people, quite frankly, my opinion, just aren't cut out for. It's just not their thing. It's
like we
they,
each have that. We each have that.
Yeah.
In this little podcast right now, and I'm just not the type to play Dark Souls games. They're not for me. They're my kryptonite in video games. So I leave it alone. Gunny Eos has admitted already on the previous podcast that he's just not for fighting games,
yeah.
where he may appreciate the characters, the art styles, and the combos. He feels you feel in yourself that it's just not a game that
Yeah.
you can adapt to, so you don't play it.
Yeah, I don't want to put in the work
I-
like Esoteric said. I don't want to put in the work, so instead of clamoring for the game to be lowered to a level that I can play it, I just respect it for what it is. And it's like, it's like me watching professional sports. I can't do that. I don't want to put in the work to do that, but I can admire other people who do. I watch plenty of
That-
fighting game tournaments, but
Yeah.
just not for me. But I respect the game, and I would never want it dumbed down so someone like me can pull off a 20-hit combo with his eyes closed. Never.
yeah,
mm,
and I agree with that because I strongly feel that it diminishes the character of the person who put in all that time. You know, it's like, oh, I
Mhm.
put in. There's people who's still playing Street Fighter 4 to this day. You know, trying to find new ways, new characters to use, and things like that. And for them to implement a mode that where people could just combo with ease, that's a slap in the face of people who put in the work and took the time. You know, especially people our age who have other obligations. So for you to kind of like sit down and pick at your leisure, this is what you want to do. Like this is the game you want to play. This is what the time you want to invest in, the product that you want to invest in. Excuse me. Then for somebody else to do it with ease when it wasn't intended to be done with ease, it's a slap in the face to me. Um, it's you know, and I to my point about games being for everyone, I feel like potentially they are, but it's up to you whether or not you want to put in the time. That's pretty much it. I feel like we all, even though we don't have a certain aptitude for certain games, I feel like if we took the time to actually play those games, I feel like you, Wolf, you can get past the Dark Souls game if you wanted to. I feel like Eos, if he wanted to like put more time into fighting games, that he'll be more competent in executing his combos. I feel like we all have that capacity to be able to, you know,
I agree, but again, you have to have the desire
yeah,
to
Right.
want
yeah,
that, right?
absolutely.
Goes back to the chart that I brought up where,
Hmm.
what is it? Prestige and feeling accomplishment, and then there's achieving one's full potential and creative and including creative activities. Like you
Yeah,
have to want to get there.
absolutely. That's
Like,
why
yeah.
that's why I said potential, because I feel like everybody has the potential to do it. It's all about what you want to do at the end of the day.
Right. That's the beauty about games as a entertainment genre because there are thousands of options. Like Wolf, he doesn't like the Soul series. It's not like every game is a Soul series game. He can go to
True.
X number of genres and he can
Hmm.
have his fun with that and he can just leave the Soul series to the people who like it. He's got other games to play.
Right.
Same thing with
Hmm.
fighting games. I leave the fighting games to the guys who like it. I have a ton of other genres to go to.
Yeah.
But it does go back to what you were talking about. I think it's more so of a just a shift in mindset because video games from when we were playing it, they've exploded. They're mainstream, they're
Yeah.
cool, they're hip, and that's brought about a certain class of people. And there are also outside factors that have nothing to do with video games, but they play a role in the people who are attracted to video games now. Because these type of people, they don't want to do all that. They just want the pretty cutscenes, the cool voiceover work, the flashy animations. They don't want any of that. They don't want. I don't want to grind for an hour, let alone 10. So it's those type of gamers. I don't even people that
You've stripped
that
them from the gamer title.
that because I think gamer is just a cringy word. It's like you're just a guy who plays video games. You're not like I'm not gonna put you in a bracket. You're a person who plays video games. But that's a whole nother thing. But these people are now in the video game industry, and this is where I feel that we and people like us are on the back end of this. These people have money. These video game corporations, they like money. And if the majority of people say, I want my game to be easier, or I will not give you my $65, they're going to go to the people that want the video game to be easier.
You're right.
So it's like, that's why you see a lot of these games, they are just like, what is this? Like, this is like, you beat this thing in a couple weeks and you feel unfulfilled. But for a person who couldn't handle a game on like a game from a couple decades ago, they're like, "Oh man, this game was it was incredible. The graphics looked amazing. I was able to beat the game. I saw the ending. It was such a great game." And you and us go, "This game was just like a breeze. I I felt nothing from this game." So
Hmm.
that's just my like that's what I've noticed in the gaming sphere. We are the significant minority now
Yep.
because gaming has become more of a mainstream pastime. And
To
quite frank,
popularize.
And
yeah, we're losing this battle realistically.
all the things that we liked in the past that was frowned upon, it has become mainstream, and it's really mind-boggling because you shitted on me in the past for liking this when when in actuality you probably liked it but thought it was dumb because
I was
of
gonna bring that up because you said like the cool kids table, and I said ironically because
yeah,
I remember a time where we were the black sheep and the odd men out. It's like you play video games, you fucking nerd. Like
yeah,
you were made
Hmm.
fun of and looked down on or whatever. Now it's mainstream. Now it's the cool thing to do.
yeah. And I feel like these difficult games kind of have a direct correlation to our character. Like we've dealt with a lot of shit, you know, from young, being people who play games and whatnot. You know, a lot of trials and tribulations, not only within the game, which is ironic because we went to escape one problem to deal with an avatar with plenty problems. It's like it really sucks, and it really annoys me because.
So
And
now I
know,
have a question to follow up your statement, but I'm gonna let you finish your statement before I go.
yeah, I just feel like it annoys me, and I do. Let me just be clear. Like I do welcome people who never played games into like the gaming field. I just want them to like pay some type of homage to the people who were playing it from jump. You know, at the end of the day, companies are just going to go for whoever got the bigger bucks, as EO said. But like, damn, like pay homage, pay some respect to the people that have been doing it from jump and have been getting, for lack of a better word, ostracized for doing it. And now the majority rules, and they're getting all the benefits of playing games or all the changes to being implemented on their behalf. Like it really sucks.
Well, it's funny you say that because that might be a acceptable answer to my question is what would you say to people who say our attitude is a form of elitism and us sitting on a high horse because we have adopted this hobby and this industry earlier than they did?
I would
But
say
that's an appropriate response, but maybe you
yeah.
have more to add. I don't know if the other guys have something to respond to that with.
Well, I'm sorry to like keep taking the
No, go
floor,
for it.
but
Go for it, bro.
I feel like in a way we kind of earned that. Like we sat there and ate that shit sandwich for so long. Like we got criticized for playing something that we liked, that already implemented difficulty from the jump. That was the bare bones of these games, whether it was the limitation of the hardware or the creativity of the developers. Like those games back in the days, they were difficult. Like I remember freaking almost throwing my controller playing Ninja Gaiden, the old school Nintendo one. I remember swimming through freaking seaweed as a Ninja Turtle trying to disarm freaking bombs. That shit was hard, but I loved it and I enjoyed it. And now imagine some person who hated games during that time growing up talking about, oh, you guys should make this shit easier. No, fuck out of here. No. Deal with it. We dealt with your bullshit. You deal with the shit that the creators created for a certain group of people. That's it. Play it or don't. That's my take on it.
Wolf, Eos, what do you say to elitism?
I mean,
Get over it.
Ooh, hot take.
That's just how I feel. Get over it. Because in the end of the day, it wasn't something that, like, would you be playing it if it wasn't popular? Would you really be playing it if it wasn't popular? Would you be playing it if it wasn't considered to be a cool thing to do or a fun thing to do or a normal thing to do at this point? Would you have given it that even a second thought? Like everybody now wants to be a nerd. Everybody now wants to, oh, my favorite hero, I really like Spider-Man, or I really like Iron Man, or I really like, Superman, or Batman is cool because he's dark and mysterious. Like, do you know anything about Batman? Do you know anything about the culture he came from
He's
or the
dark and
culture he was
mysterious.
created for?
And then have the
You know?
audacity to criticize us for saying, oh, well, for critiquing the movie that you guys watched for the first freaking time when we read the comic books and watched the animated series. Like, give me a
Right.
goddamn break. Like, these people need to
Like
just shut the hell
in,
up. That's
Uh-oh,
it.
Esoteric is hot with this one. I like
yeah,
it.
he's passionate on this one.
I
I
am
like it.
because, like, I'm sure you guys can all relate. Like, playing video games, going to the store, picking up Pokemon cards, sitting in a cafeteria playing Yu-Gi-Oh. Shit like that. People were just, what the hell are they doing? Like, these people who are complaining about easy mode, they're just nosy. They just want to know what the game has to offer because everybody is raving about it. The Soul series, they're not really popular compared to other games. They're only popular to a niche amount of people, which are most likely gamers who has went through the shit that we went through from young. So I mean, and there are some exceptions. There are some people that's like, well, I don't want to play it because it's just not me. But they're not the ones who are like, well, this is too hard for me, so I need to have an easy mode. Like, they're not doing that. The
I love that
actual
they all sound
gamers,
like that.
because they do, they're whining. Like we had to suck it up. Why can't they?
Well, go on, Joe. Go on.
No, no, no. I'm just more middle of the road. I mean, I used to feel like you, Esoteric. I did. I'm like, nah, get the fuck out. I don't want you here. I don't. You're not allowed. And now it's just like, eh. Like I see the writing on the wall. I see the Assassin's Creed Valhallas that come out and how just brainless and just mind-numbingly easy they are. I see the Watch Dogs that come out that are the same boat, brainless, mind-numbingly easy. I see these games just winning. You could call it a defeatist attitude if you want. I'll accept it. Um, but it's just like, you know what? I don't. Fine, I guess. Fine. I still have my older games. I still have more of the indie crowd that are producing the games that I want to see and I want to play. So it's like, you know what? Fine. Take. Again, maybe it sounds defeatist, and it kind of is, but it's just like, fine. Just like you can be in the same space as me, but if this director and his team want to produce a product and they want to produce it this way, and they do not give you an easy game option, that's it. The conversation ends there because that's just what they wanted to do. Now, if there is a super easy mode, um, and that's where you find your enjoyment from, play it. I don't care. Joe, I didn't buy your game. You bought your own game. So, and there are some times where I want to play an easy game.
Yeah.
There are some times
Same.
where I don't want to play Dark Souls. There are some times where I just want to play Phoenix Wright and just have my little interactive book. Like there are days where I'm like that, and sometimes those days trump the days where I want to play something mind-numbingly hard. No, I don't. I don't always feel like that. And let's not get it twisted. There are some hard modes in video games.
Mm.
I just want to get this out there. There are hard modes in video games that are straight fucking bullshit
Yeah,
and are
you're
not
right.
I
fun.
agree.
You're
Agree.
right.
Like you let the RPG nerds flame me all they want, but there's a RPG that series that I like playing, Shimigami the Tensei Saga. Persona is a spin-off of that.
I heard about that.
Their version of hard mode is just we're gonna have enemies just randomly hit you for 4 times your HP. Right? You have 200 HP? Surprise, bitch. This enemy hit you for 400. How can I counter that? You don't. Like I don't find that fun at all. That is not fun because
That
that's
is not
just
fun difficulty.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is your numbers trump my numbers, and we're in the beginning of the fucking game. Perfect example. Last Shimigami game on the 3DS, Shimigami Tensei 4. I played it. I booted it up on hard. I'm like, fuck it, let's give it a shot. Go through the cutscenes, dialogue, blah blah blah. Get to the actual game. My first encounter against a pixie. The beginning, for those who know the series, is like the traditional beginning monster of Persona and the Shimigami series. I play it. I have 200 HP. Pixie comes out, crits me, 500. Die. Game over. I didn't save. I have to reboot the game.
Wow.
I'm like, what was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to do against that? I asked a friend. I gave him the same story. I asked him, how was I supposed to counter that? And he was like, you don't. I was like, understood. I played the rest of the game on normal mode. Like, so hard might be a status symbol to some people, but sometimes you don't want to fucking deal with that because it's just not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
I agree 100% with your point, Gunna. But here's the thing, right? You as a gamer, you are accepting the options within the game, and you're deciding how you want to navigate that game. If you buy a game which already has no, which has a hard mode, but it also has normal, easy, it's up to you, the player, to decide how you want to go through that game. That's perfectly fine because there are days, I'm pretty sure all of us can attest to, where we don't really want to play um, a difficult game, as you stated. Like, I still play Mario. I like the Souls games, but I still play Mario. It's not that hard, but I just enjoy the game. But there's a difference between you taking what the well, not you per se, but there's a difference between a gamer taking the game at its core and accepting what it is than a gamer who wants to change it completely. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
that's pretty much what I'm trying to allude to. I want people, everyone should be able to play games, but I want people to accept what the game is giving to you. If it's not something that you want, don't get it. Not everybody can fit the same size shoe. If it's not for you, then don't play it. But don't take away the enjoyment of others who are deciding to play it the way that it is. Because of that rhetoric, because of that mentality, and because of, money instances, money reasons, that game that we enjoyed might change because the majority is complaining about how difficult it is. Like,
Oh, yeah. There have been plenty of game series that over the years have been severely altered and remade and rebooted to be easier incarnations of what they originally were.
yeah, and that's, to me, like, ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Elden Ring comes out with an easy mode, I'm gonna be less inclined to play it.
See, but I don't see I don't see how, because you could still play the game on ball busting difficulty and still have your enjoyment and be completely isolated from the guy who wants to play it on easy mode. I mean, yeah, your conversations would obviously differ if you were to speak to that person because he'd be like, "Oh man, this boss took me 4 hours to beat. I had to get frame perfect with my dodges," and then the other guy's like, "Oh, I beat it in 10 minutes." Obviously, that conversation is different, and it might end right there and then. But I don't know. I just don't see how, if Elden Ring included an easy or very easy mode, how that would diminish your experience.
I think it's
I think it's
because,
just a loss. It's a loss of, like, it's a stupid prideful thing. I'm not calling you stupid
no, I know.
or anything. Because I'm calling myself stupid and prideful because it's a loss. It's like, damn, the little bastards got to win. They bent the
Yeah,
arm of the developers,
yeah,
and they're bending the fucking knee. It's not about, because when Elden Ring comes out, I'm gonna play it on. Yeah, if there is a normal, easy, hard, I'm gonna play it on hard. I'm pretty sure Esoteric is probably gonna try it on hard or play it on hard.
yeah,
It's not gonna change our experience, but it's just, again, it's the ideology of, like, fuck, like, these bastards are getting they're gaining points.
yeah.
They're forcing people to bend the knee.
And
But
they're
I didn't mean to speak for you. Go ahead.
no, you really conveyed that point. And not only that, is that it's opening up the floodgates of other things being changed. Like, if you're gonna add a difficulty, what else in the sequels are you going to change? Like, what are you going to do for the betterment of people who didn't even start from the beginning of the game? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to maintain those same options that you gave us in your predecessors with your successor games? That's just my thing. Like, it's gonna open up the floodgates for more changes to be made, and that's gonna take away, in my opinion, my love for certain games.
They could, they definitely could, but just to play devil's advocate,
Mm-hmm.
let's say when Elden Ring comes out, they might pull a Monster Hunter route because we all play Monster Hunter. As we know, usually a Rathalos, for example, behaves a certain way and has a certain move sets in normal and high rank, and then when it
Mm-hmm.
gets to G rank, it gets one or two different moves that you never see in high rank.
Mm-hmm.
So would you still feel the same way that if, say, in Elden Ring, for example, we're fighting the same night boss, and
Okay.
the guy on easy mode fights a different version of the boss, while you on hard mode fights quote unquote the purest form of the boss, the true form of the boss that has different moves that the easy player, his boss, doesn't have. You guys are both fighting the same boss, but he gets an experience that's tailored to his skill level, while you get, one could argue, the full experience because you're playing on, quote unquote, the difficulty it was meant to be on.
Well, I would argue
Would that
that that's
matter at all?
no, I get what you're saying. I would argue that that would be a different ball game because they are they are actively making changes to the experience overall of the game. They're not just, oh well, this boss is like, let's say if they were to put an easy mode in Elden Ring or any of the Souls games. Most games they would just kind of adjust the numbers. Everything else will
Right.
remain
That's,
the same, the animations.
to
However,
me, that's cheap difficulty. That is cheap. That's a cheap way of adjusting difficulty.
yeah,
To me.
I agree. So if they were to take it a step further and change the animations of certain bosses or disallow players certain move skills that the bosses would attack them with unless you played on a harder difficulty, then that I can let go, because it's going to be a different experience game wise, you know but at my core, like at my core, the game did not have an easy mode. So it still would kind of sting that they would implement it, but I can let it go if our experiences differ with the interactions in the game.
So I'll say I don't give a shit. You can play whatever the fuck you want to play and how you want to play it. I don't care. I'm gonna play my game the way I want to play it, and because it's my money, and I'm not looking for a walk in the park, but I'm not looking for like I want to walk on glass shards and shit. Like there's a limit to like what I'm willing to tolerate.
Absolutely.
An example, a few years ago, um, I rediscovered a Sega game that I was like, oh shit, I played this game as a kid,
Oh no.
right? He knows exactly what I'm talking, because at the time, me and Esoteric were roommates. Shakan for the Sega Genesis. That game is fucking hard as balls. And listen, I've seen people speed run it, not take a hit. Very impressive. I bow to you, sir. I bend the knee. But fuck, that game is hard as shit, unforgiving, and you will spend. I mean, it's a fucking. Just look it up. The game is hard as hell.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
But something about that made it more intriguing. It was like, I kind of want to play this game, because it wasn't. I mean, it's not a great game in terms of like its controls or whatever, and like the lack of like information, but something about that difficulty and that wall is like, man, I want to climb that fucking wall. I want to do it, right? It goes back to desire. You got to want to do it,
Yeah.
right? If a real life example, most of us are ever since the pandemic and COVID and all that, C virus, excuse me. Most of us are trying to lose weight, right? Because we've gained extra weight, staying at home and whatever, right? That's not easy to do. If losing weight and getting in shape was easy, everybody would be in shape. That's something that takes dedication, consistency, and work. It takes work. You gotta be able to fight the cravings. You gotta be able to get up and force yourself to do the workouts and all that. It takes time, right? And so playing a game on hard, for example, or playing games in general, like it's not you can't expect to just be handed to you. Just like if you want to lose 50 pounds, you're not just going to lose 50 pounds. You got to work for it. And sure, you could cheat and get liposuction and all this other shit, but I personally can't respect that. Like, you didn't lose the weight, you cheated, right? And that's like to me the same as somebody who, you know, puts infinite life in the game. It's like you could play that way if you want. I mean, it's your experience, but like I don't respect you for that, right? So you have to put in the work. And for me, it's like difficulty in a game, there's limits, but I appreciate it because it just makes the experience more memorable. If I'm playing Pokemon, we talked about this in the last podcast about the effort training and stuff. Like I would be falling asleep just killing Machops over and over and over again, killing 100 Machops, and writing down in my little notebook, okay, Machop number 57, right? Falling asleep. I love Pokemon, but fucking effort training in certain games is a nightmare, right? But when I take my Pokemon to the battle tower and I'm fighting the AI at its best, I'm not asleep anymore. I'm wide awake because now I'm engaged. That's the difference. And I don't know if that made sense or if my point landed, but that's, you know, that's how I look at it. That's my perspective.
I think it landed. Wolf, do you have anything to say? I mean, I've been like
I
taking over the floor
right.
for a while. My bad, guys.
Well, I think you all present different perspectives, which can be taken into accountability of the changes that the game, that we can look forward to. In the end of the day, if the person chooses to play on easy mode, then that's just them.
That's fine.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not
yeah.
against that.
But I also understand where Esoteric is coming from, because to me, we've seen it, especially in today's culture and how things are changing, is they get an inch, but then they want to take a mile. So, okay, then the game company who develops these Dark Soul-like games, they do present an easy mode for the game. With that being said, the easy mode doesn't have certain equipment or certain enemy patterns or certain bosses or, certain areas, because it's easy mode. But then where will that end? You got the easy mode you wanted. How are we going to reward the players that's playing on hard mode versus the players that's playing on easy mode? And if those players don't get what the hard players are getting on hard mode, are they just going to continue to complain until they get what they want?
Yes.
So then, you see what I'm saying? Is like, at that point is where I'm starting to worry on where the difficulty in video games are going, because if you're going to just take that mile because you got that inch where the game developers took the time to give you a watered down version, that you can click on by buying the game itself, then how much more of the game do you want? Do you just want Dark Souls to be the next Bayonetta? Because I don't find Bayonetta to be a difficult game in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry for those who love Bayonetta. I don't mean to insult you, but it's not a hard game. Like the next beat 'em up, those one button games where you just press X, 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 and boom, you win. Like is it going to go to that point? And then if it does, because they're trying to cater to these group of people who don't really respect the game and its creativity, they just want to be a part of that crowd that says, yeah, I beat Dark Souls because it's cool to beat Dark Souls. Like it's not, there's no respect there. So it's not like those gamers who truly appreciate Dark Souls and its styles of games, they're gonna go back to it. They're gonna want more of that. So they're gonna appreciate what the developers put out. But then you're also gonna you're also gonna, in a way, slap them in the face by saying, hey, well, thanks for supporting me when the games was difficult, but yeah, these guys, there's like 10 more people in this group who wants the game to be child's play. It's like, where will it end in getting what they want? So I feel, in Esoteric's point of view, if it's not for you, if you cannot play the game, and if you do not want to put in the time for the game, take your pansy ass somewhere else. Play something else. Like, I'm sorry, but because ultimately what's going to happen is they're going to destroy the game, because then they don't want anything positive for the game. Because to me, it's not, the game was this. It's like saying, okay, well, I don't appreciate Van Gogh's painting because he didn't draw the people or paint the people in his paintings proportionately. You understand? It's like,
Right.
well, that's Van Gogh's style. He's supposed to be an artist with a certain level of complexity. He's supposed to have brought his ideology in the art field, in fine arts, is to bring in complexity. So you're not going to get a fine art with properly proportionate people in his paintings. You're not going to get that. So, but at the end of the day, that was his creativity, and people learn to appreciate that because they can pull out what they feel his painting is or what his creative direction was. So we can look at the same painting and have, two different opinions about it, but at the end of the day, we looked at the same painting and had different emotions. Whereas playing Dark Souls, playing video games in general, I can play video games and say, well, I like the Persona games over the Shin Megami Tensei games. Whereas Gunnar Eos doesn't. Maybe he doesn't.
No,
Maybe he prefers.
I prefer SMT over Persona personally.
You see, and they're essentially the same games.
Yeah.
They are. But he took that type of game. He developed his own specific critique about it, and he said, okay, well, instead of writing a hate mail to Atlas asking why can't Persona be more like Shin Megami, instead he just waits for his Shin Megami's releases and he plays those. Whereas I'm on the reverse. I will wait for my Persona releases and kind of push the Shin Megami Tenseis to the side. Which, to be honest, I do want to play the new one coming out on the Switch. It does look interesting, so I will be trying that game. But it doesn't change the fact that I still prefer the Persona side more. It's like, and I've never once felt like the Persona games or the Shin Megami Tensei games needed to be easier or shorter or more accessible to other people. I like them just the way they are. I've never felt that sports games should change in how they play. I've never felt that shooters should change in how they play. I just don't play them because they're just not of my style of video games. So, Activision will never get anything from me in an article, or even as this channel grows, I will never say, hey, Activision, make Call of Duty easier for me to play. What the fuck? No, because that's like, what am I bitching about that for? Put on my big boy pants, hold myself accountable for what I'm capable of, what I'm willing to put in effort for, what I'm not willing to put in effort for, and move on with my life. That's how I feel. So I again, to circle back, I agree. If the guy wants to play his game on easy mode, go ahead. But there's going to be a line that needs to be drawn where it does not start to intoxicate the players who want to play their games in their authentic form, or what the developers have in full mind of their creativity for that game, in their vision of creativity for that game. So if you want a mode where you can just click on and say, this is easy mode, take it, leave it alone. If you're talking to someone who played the game on hard or normal mode, or what the mode of the game should be, and they say, oh yeah, I got this boss, I fought this boss, I beat this boss and got this cool weapon for it, and your experience wasn't that because you chose to play on easy mode, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point on it. So I definitely agree. This is one of the harder ones for us to discuss because we want people to play video games because we want video games to strive because that's our own personal entertainment. But don't come in and start destroying what I love because
Yeah, I agree.
you
Yeah.
don't want to put in that mental capacity to adapt to it.
Exactly. Like I couldn't have said it better. Like I welcome everyone to play video games, but much like life, there are certain things that aren't accessible to you in the video game community, and you're just gonna have to take that L, or turn that L into a W and try. You know, that's all I'm saying.
There's nothing wrong with not being able to play a certain game. There's
Exactly.
absolutely nothing wrong. It's just like if you can't do it, if it's beyond your scope, or if it's just boring or you don't like it, whatever the reasoning is, that's fine. You have other options. You even have other options in the same genre of video game. There are different levels of RPGs. There are different levels of action games. Hell, the Soul series has spawned an entire genre. And there are different levels of Souls-like games. And there are some who are like, to people who play, one could argue, the upper echelon of Souls games, the Souls games we all know and love, some of us. You have the really brain dead ones that are just a
Lords
skit.
of the Fallen.
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't remember the game, but yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know what? Some guy there is a guy out there in this wide world who loves Lords of the Fallen because it's a Souls-like game and he was able to beat it and he couldn't beat Dark Souls. And you know what? Blanca's like
Good for
having none
him.
of that. Like,
Good for
I'm
him.
happy for the guy. Like, good for him.
Yeah,
But
it
if
it
it
was
ain't for
for
you,
him.
it ain't for you. Yeah, it's just like, but yeah, I agree. Wolf just said it right. This goes for any fan base. Don't come into a fan base saying, "Hey, I like what you did with the place, but we got to chuck it all out the window because I like this rug better than the rug you have. So we're going to put this one in." Like, don't come in and start redesigning the place, so to speak. Come in, respect what's there before you, and find your place in it. There's a place in it for everyone.
Well said.
Yep.
Well said. I know I could come off as like gatekeepy. That's a word. Um, and that listen, that's hard for me because this is a hobby I've had my entire life, and it's one of the more consistent things that I've had access to. So yeah, it matters to me, right? And I'm not trying to like make everything a pissing contest. Like, oh, I didn't platinum all the Dark Souls games. Esoteric did. Kudos to him,
Yeah, but I'm not
right?
diminishing anyone who didn't. I
But
just
right,
find
exactly.
fulfillment in doing so, and
And
I
that's
take high pride in it. You know,
as you should.
that's
It
it.
took a lot of fucking work. I'm not doing it because I know how much work and time that's going to take. And to me, platinuming those games is too boring. Like it's gonna kill the game for me. So I haven't even platinum Monster Hunter World, and I love that game.
Yeah.
But the trophies that are left are find the biggest Urgigante, or find all the biggest monsters, find all the smallest monsters, and there's no way to funnel it. It's just the repetitive, just hoping to get lucky RNG. I'm good. I don't. I hate that shit. So I didn't even platinum those games, and I love them. And I think Monster Hunter World and Iceborne is probably the best Monster Hunter game, period. Right? We could get into that debate later. But if you want to play easy mode, cool. I don't care. But don't shit on my carpet, as Gunner was stating. Don't come to my corner. Me and Esoteric talking about beating Dark Souls 3, and you're like, I beat Lords of the Fallen. It's like you belong over there. Like this is not your spot, right?
Just to
And
be
I
very
and
clear,
that's
we're not trying to
go ahead.
like we don't necessarily get rid of players who've beaten lesser games. We actually challenge y'all to come if you want to play the game. We'll help you if anything, but don't try to
Sure,
change our game.
listen, but yeah, don't come into my conversation and like I think it should be this way. It's like we were talking about something else. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm an asshole. Well, not maybe. I am. I am. It's fine. But I don't know. This is a tough topic, and like I said before in the beginning, I had to sit down and really think about this because it's like shit. And working at a game store for so long, I had to work on this. I remember, and I'll try to make this quick. Um, when I first started, way back when PS2 games were so readily available, and I was getting it, and this was maybe 2009 or 2010. This
Wow.
was before Monster Hunter Tri, but definitely after Monster Hunter 2G. So I definitely was in it. Like I was at least a year into Monster Hunter, and I love that game, right? We played it a ton. Remember a guy came in and he was returning a copy of Monster Hunter 1 on the PS2. And I was like, "Oh, you're returning Monster Hunter 1." Okay. He bought it used and he used the 7-day return policy to get something else. And I was like, "Okay, well, what did you think of the game?" And he was like, "Oh, the game was cool." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm glad you liked it." And I'm just making conversation with the guy, and he bought it and played it for just a day. And he was like, "Yeah, I beat it." And I'm like, "You beat it? What do you mean you beat it? You only played it for a day." He's like, "Yeah, I did all the quests." I'm like, "You did all the quests?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "No, you didn't. Nobody could do all the quests in one day.
No.
That's not. I mean, it's possible
Even
if
if you
you're a
played all
speedrunner.
day, and I don't think so.
It's
I
possible.
don't
No,
think
it's
so.
I've seen speedrunners do it. It's possible, but you have to put in hundreds of hours of practice to pull it off.
Okay.
It's not something you pick up and just beat in a day. It's not that kind of game, right? Especially if this is your first Monster Hunter game. Get the fuck out of here. You didn't beat it in a day, right? So I'm arguing with the guy. I'm like, you didn't beat this in a day. Like, just say you played it and you had fun with it. Like,
You
why
can
you?
do that with Monster Hunter Rise.
Well, that's a different conversation. I'm talking about Monster Hunter 1 on the PS2.
Excuse me, sir.
Shit.
It's Monster Hunter Rise pending.
What, pending the rest of the game? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we're still waiting for the rest of it. Anyway, and I'm arguing with the guy, and it's like I look back and I'm like, I should have just returned the game and be like, all right, man, well, I'm glad you liked it, and just ended it there, right? I let my pride get the best of me, and I knew this guy was lying, and I just it was pissing me off. I'm like, don't walk around talking about some you beat Monster Hunter in a day, you goddamn liar. Like I took it personally, right? But I've grown from that, and I've learned to just accept people. Years later, I was still working at the same company. Sekiro came out. I was telling people about the game. People would ask me like, "Oh, should I get into it?" And I'm like, "Oh, have you played Dark Souls or Bloodborne?" And they would be like, "No." And I'm like, "Try Bloodborne first. See how far you get, and then try Sekiro because you can't return the game if you don't like it or if it's too hard." Like, "Oh, I can handle it." And I'm like, "Oh, I warned you." And I would see the same people come back. This game is ass. It's too hard. I don't get it. It's stupid. Whatever. And it's like, all right, man. Well, sorry you hated the game. I don't get into into that conversation because it's like it's not worth it, right? Like there's no winning there, right? It's better to just cut my losses and be like, well, it wasn't for him. That's it, and then recommend Assassin's Creed Odyssey or whatever.
Well, it's funny that you alluded to Sekiro, because I remember when we first started playing Sekiro that we had to get to a particular boss within a certain time because so many people complained about that boss, and they had to do an update to
Oh, they
dumb down
nerfed
the
the
boss.
bull. That's right. Yeah, the bull,
Or,
the
yeah.
raging bull.
So this is
Mhm.
just my point of having a majority of people who don't want to just accept defeat and not want to, and just not play the game, kind of enforcing their majority rules and essentially changing the game. Like I literally had to rush to beat the bull because they were working on patches to make it easier. You know? I
Well,
mean,
when Sekiro came out, there was tons of articles.
Respect my
Basically,
time.
yeah, respect my basically bashing From Software, the developers of the Souls games, for not including an easy mode. And it got to the point where the guy an ocean away had to basically say, sorry, I designed the game to be this way, and that's how I would like it to be played. Like he very politely said, tough shit, I want the game to be like this, go cry elsewhere. It's like, but it goes to show that, enough the internet is vast, and if enough people whine and complain, it gets these producers and directors to at least comment on
Yep.
this controversy, quote unquote. They didn't change it. They claimed the bull fix was a balance change. So it's like the bull was too tough. If I remember correctly, the patch notes were the bull was too hard for what you had access to at that point of the game. So they toned it down. That was their reasoning. take that for what you will. But
I beat the bull pre-patch. Esoteric
Same.
beat the bull pre-patch. Whatever. I mean, listen, and I'm not expecting praise for it. I don't care.
No.
Like, but I don't know, man. Just play the games that you want. Like, you're not meant to play every game. Listen, I can't go to the NBA and tell them, "Hey, so I'm 5'9", I'm not like 6'7". Can you lower the hoop like 3 feet so that I can try and dunk it?" No. There's a standard here, sir. And if you can't play at this level, then go play in the lower league. Like, what do you want?
like casual basketball, like everybody
Oh,
can still play
you
basketball.
could still play basketball. You just can't play with us.
And
Sorry.
and there are people who are shorter than us in the league that are able to dunk. So
And that goes back to your point of they didn't have the initial advantage, so they worked harder because they wanted to achieve that goal of playing professional basketball, even though their height wasn't the league standard. So it goes back to they wanted it.
yeah. And let me just make a correction. I'm not sure if they were shorter than us, but
I don't think so.
relative to the players that are usually in the NBA, they were significantly shorter than them and they were able to dunk. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just you got to put in the work and you got to want it. If you don't want it, then go play whatever it is that is at your level, right? And there's thousands of games to choose from. It's not like, you know, you got options, man.
But no,
It-
I don't want to play that other game. I want to play what you're playing. Like
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just, oh man, I can't have these cool conversations on Reddit about hardest boss in a X game because I didn't get past the tutorial. And those people, they get upset by that. And it's not like, I hate to sound like the old man screaming at the trees, but not like it was where just kind of like sucked it up and moved on.
And another point to bring up too, some people will argue, well, I don't have time. I've got a life. I've got a career. I've got kids. I've got a family. I've got a wife. I've got the, and that's fine. That's cool. Congratulations on all that. Blessings to you. But that's not my problem.
Yeah.
Just like if I'm poor and I can't afford a house, then that's not your problem. I've got to go rent or I've got to get a better job or I have to find a solution. Period. Right?
yeah, like we don't have
It
time
is
to
what it is.
play and invest all the time we want into the games, into the stream, into the podcast, but we make time for it. We do what we can with the constraints that we have. Like that's it.
You
And
find a way.
if there's something that we can't do, we just don't do it. We
Don't
exclude
do it.
it's
It's
simple.
not rocket science.
It's
but
a life
if you
lesson.
If you can't beat a boss in the Souls game because you only have 2 hours to play, or you got to wake up early you got to go to sleep because you got to wake up early in the morning, maybe don't play a Souls game. If it's gonna take you two
Or take
hours,
your time. Like
Yeah.
there are bosses that have taken me days to beat.
Yep.
Days. I would be there for hours, just slamming my face against the fucking wall, trying to beat a particular boss. And I just go, you know what? Tomorrow's another day.
Yep.
I need to cool off. I need to come back refreshed tomorrow, the next day. I'm not gonna. That's it. You won the battle. You haven't won the war, and you come back to the game. Whatever.
yeah,
Or you practice, or you look things up, and you like, oh, I didn't think of that strategy, or whatever. Like, you know.
yeah. I
But
don't.
again,
I don't
people don't
really
want to put in the
that.
time.
Yeah, I don't accept that as a good enough excuse. Like we all have. If you're above a certain age, we all have responsibilities.
Right.
Like we all, we work. Some of us
Some
have
more than others.
children.
I'll admit
Right.
that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Compared to, Wolf, for example, I have way more free time than he might. So, yeah, obviously the amount of gaming we can do differs, but he still plays what he wants to play. He carves out his time to play. I do as well. Like, if you want to do something, you will find a way to do it. And, if a game's too long or too difficult, you might have to play something else or adjust the difficulty like we were talking about.
Yeah. And some might argue that, well, you guys have been playing games for practically all your life, so you acquired such a strong skill set to best most of these games. Well, you guys should have been playing with us. It's like,
Well,
you know,
I'm not gonna say that because that's a little like You can't go back in time. But like, okay, so what?
No, but
Start putting in the time now.
yeah,
you
but
know?
some people would argue, because I've had a conversation with someone about like the reason why I'm so decent, because there's a higher threshold of the games I play, like the players, that it's because I've been playing from a long period of time, from childhood,
And
and
there's truth to that.
there is truth, but it's like you can't fault me for that. During that time, you either chose to, do something else, or you didn't have, unfortunately, access to video games. It's not my fault, but
That's no
it's just
different than
life.
being born privileged with like a rich family or something like that.
Exactly.
Like, oh,
Exactly.
you've only got a good business and because you had an upstart, like you had a startup capital. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do about that? You want me to not have that advantage? Like some people have advantages, some people don't.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is.
Just the
You
hand
just
you
gotta
were
learn to
dealt.
play the cards that are dealt to you, period. But anyway, we are basically out of time. But any final thoughts from anybody before we close up?
I guess I'll go first. You know, video game players, gamers, whatever you guys refer to yourselves as. Just want to make it very clear that I welcome all kinds of games, all kinds of gamers. Um, you know, um, yes, I was pretty animated during this podcast, but I have, in my opinion, legit reasons to be that way. But at the end of the day, all I'm trying to say is, if it's not for you, then it's not for you. Don't change my experience to suit your needs. If that experience wasn't for you, it wasn't intended for you, and that's pretty much
Yeah,
I
no,
I don't have any
Yep.
closing comments. This was very insightful. So I don't have any closing comments. I just want people to, you know, adapt. Like if you want to play the guitar, you have to learn. Um, if you want to play the flute, you have to learn. So if you want to play Dark Souls, you have to learn. If you want to hit a 100 hit combo in a fighting game, you have to learn. Um, that's just my take on it. Just learn, and you'll get there with a little patience. If you really like the idea of playing video games, you can play just about any genre. That's my advice to those who are watching or listening to us now.
yeah,
I'm done.
and pretty much to end it. There's something out there for everyone, and again, there is no shame if you can't play a specific game because it's too hard, too fast. Just play what you want, enjoy what you want,
Yeah.
and don't shit on anybody else. And don't allow yourself to be shitted on because you can't play the the game everyone's talking about. It's fine. I hate to use the word, but it applies here. It's just a game.
It's a what? You kind of broke up for me.
yeah,
It's just a game. At the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
just a game.
yeah, true.
All right, so that's another one in the chamber. If you guys enjoyed the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Comment below as to what your opinion is, whether you agree or disagree with what we said. We'd like to hear it. I think hearing other people's perspectives is healthy. It's good for conversation, and it helps us grow as people and as participants in this crazy thing we call gaming. So
True that.
subscribe if you want more content. We're gonna put out a podcast every week. And yeah, Esoteric, where can they find us?
Well, first I would like to say I hope you easy advocates don't dislike me. um, with that being said, you're more than welcome to, see us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Logical Gamers TV. Just look for the light bulb logo. Best logo ever. I always say that in every stream, so I'm just gonna keep running with that. Also, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. So definitely come through. You guys are more than welcome.
Awesome.
Oh, EST, by the way. I'm sorry.
Eastern Standard Time. Yes.
Yes.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you for watching.
Laters.